All right, good evening, everybody. We are going to go through chapter 17 or unit 17 tonight. This one is actually my favorite, to be honest, because it teaches you everything that you can do with real estate. And a lot of people think when you finish real estate, all you can do is sell homes. And that's not the truth. There's many different things you can do. While some of these do require a license, not all of them do. So that's a positive. All right. So tonight, like it says, is real estate a business of many specializations. Okay. Mr. Grossman, if you go ahead and get us to the next slide there. All right. So in the first objective is we're going to identify the various practice areas that are available within the real estate industry. We're also going to describe the ways a sales agent becomes what's called competent to practice in a particular area. We'll further explain a sales agent's scope of practice, and we'll list the various real estate related disciplines. The normal, most basic of them all is this one up here. Okay, this is what most of you are taking real estate, what you're used to, and that's the brokerage. Okay, and that's the business of bringing together a buyer and a seller who are interested in making a real estate transaction is going to be the brokerage. Okay, so in this particular situation, this is kind of what we are. We end up, our job as real estate professionals is to get out in the general public, and we try to bring buyers and sellers together. That's our job. Okay, so this is the most common part in regards to real estate. So typically, the broker acts as an agent of the buyer or the seller, or sometimes both, in negotiating the sale, purchase, or rental of property. Now, a sales agent is a license holder that is employed by and associated with a broker who conducts brokerage activities on behalf of the broker for a fee or commission. So, like I said, this is the one that everybody thinks of when they get into real estate, is I want to become a real estate agent because the fact is that I want to buy or help people buy or sell homes, okay? And that's what their job is as a sales agent. So when you finish this course and you sit for your license and exam, Mr. Eugene, you would become a real estate agent. However, your broker would, if you came along with my firm, would be me, okay? Now, my job is to supervise everybody and make certain that everybody's doing what? Doing their job. But your job is to actually go out and practice in regards to getting leads and things to that nature, okay? Now, in regards to that situation as well, there's one of the key things that a lot of people don't understand here. This is where we're going to take a few minutes. We're going to talk about what's called competency, okay? What exactly to you, Aiden, does the word competency mean?
Having the ability to perform the actions needed.
And layman's term.
Okay. Can you get the job? Layman's
Get your crap. Know your crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Know your stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that situation is we want to make certain that as we go through this situation, we want to make certain that the individual that is practicing actually knows their stuff. Now, Travis, why is that important? Why is it important that you as an agent need to know your stuff?
I don't get sued, but so if I'm representing a buyer, they actually get what they signed up for. My clients fulfill their obligations.
Mr. Eugene, as a home seller and a buyer, was competency something important to you when you were buying and selling a home?
Well, heck yeah, I don't want somebody that don't know what they're doing mess me up, and then I don't get what I want or have to pay out more than what I have to.
So you mean you want Aiden, if he's going to represent you in a sale, you want him to know what he's doing?
Exactly.
Why is that important, Aiden?
Because we're dealing with people's biggest life investments.
That's right. You're dealing with sometimes the only largest asset that an individual has. And if you're representing Mr. Eugene and you fumble the ball, well, Mr. Eugene might get sued. Mr. Eugene, you like that?
Nope.
Why don't you want to get sued, Mr. Eugene?
Heck, I don't lose no money.
Well, I mean, you're training him.
Training him for me to get sued? No way.
I mean, he would learn a lot.
No.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can sue. They can sue you. Leave me out of it.
So in that situation is yes, competency is big. And the thing is a lot of people in these situations, a lot of real estate agents, I actually was talking to somebody earlier today. She was like, yeah, my friend's getting a real estate license and she's over here and she's paying, somehow she got a discount or something, but she's paying like really cheap price. And, but all she does is she just basically clicks through the program and she just takes some tests and she's fixing to take or be able to get her license pretty soon. And I was like, well, that's not good, because the fact of the matter is when you end up going through a program where you're just kind of able to skip everything and go take a test, there's a problem, because that person is going to know nothing about real estate. Okay, so competency is very big, and Trek is putting a lot of big pressure on this right now, guys and gals. Trek really wants to make certain that you know your craft. Okay, I don't want you just going over there and just acting like you know your stuff. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think in a situation, Travis, say that you just got your real estate license today. Could you, if you just got your real estate license, could you go to Dallas and start practicing right now? Do you think that'd be a wise choice?
No.
Why not?
I don't know that area.
You don't know that area. You're not what? Competent in that area. Okay. Now, what if you were in Houston or Galveston? Could you practice there?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because why? That's your area, isn't it? That's where you know. Yeah, that's, you know more about that area. Mr. Eugene, what if we sent you out to El Paso? You know anything about that area?
I know where it is. That's about it.
It's just dirt. It's not.
It's not that dirt out.
It's not.
So, and what if Dayton, I send you down to McAllen? Do you know anything about that?
Nothing.
Nothing. So in these situations is we have to make certain that the people that we're dealing with, they are competent and knowledgeable. Okay. So in Texas, pre-license education requirements for a sales agent's license gives the student a well-rounded foundational understanding of real estate. So we do provide you with a lot of information. Okay. And a lot of you probably are like, yeah, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. Okay. It's a ton of information coming at you. But is it possible to know every single thing that you're being taught? No, I'll tell you guys and gals, when I first started teaching way back in the early 2012, I think it was. Yeah, 2012 when I started teaching. It was a lot. It was a lot of material. And it was scary getting up here because I knew most of it, but teaching it's a different aspect. Okay. And those of you that are going to begin teaching, and those of you that are maybe wanting to go into teaching, don't let the fear of you not knowing everything stop you from doing it. Okay, just like with Mr. Eugene back there, he knows very little about this. Okay, and most of you probably listening online probably know very little. But does it mean, Travis, that you should stop because your fears get in your way? No, you should get out there and just try. Okay. But if you're going to try, you always link up with somebody that knows what they're doing. Okay. So again, specialization courses are not required to get a salesperson or a sales agent's license. A lot of times, a lot of realtors will ask me this, well, I want to just lease properties. Do I have to get a license for that? Well, do you need?
Yes.
Okay, but do they have to have a lease license?
No.
No. What if they want to do commercial real estate, Travis? Do they have to have a commercial real estate license? No. What do they need? What do they need, guys? It's a real estate salesperson license. So it's just because you may want to specialize in an area, you don't have to specialize in multiple areas. Does that make sense? Once you get your real estate license, you can sell anything real estate wise, period, except mobile homes. You cannot sell mobile homes independent of land. Okay. So if you're just wanting to sell a mobile home, you have to have a separate license. But if a mobile home is on a property and you're selling the property with a mobile home, your salesperson license allows you. But you cannot sell a mobile home by itself with no land. with a salesperson license. Now, the law and rules require that an agent must be competent to perform any real estate brokerage activities that requires a license. National Association of Realtors offers professional designations to brokers and sales agents who complete educational programs in a variety of specialized practice areas. That's why one of these situations is me being in the real estate industry for as long as I have and teaching the same material. I know a lot of this material, okay, and I can share this stuff. We had a training today, and the trainer was asking a question about good funds. She says, everybody I've trained all day, nobody's answered it. Who knows it? And Abe, what happened? Who knew the answer?
You.
I knew it. But it's the only reason why is because I've already seen that stuff. It's already been sent to me across the deal. I already know it. But from an average person or a realtor that doesn't practice with it, how many of y'all really knew what a good funds was? Not many. Okay. So, and it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just the fact of the matter is it's how often are you involved in it, how much you basically keep involved. So one of the key things though, that I always tell people with this bottom bullet right here, when we're talking about National Association of Realtors, there are plenty of training opportunities. Okay, there are plenty. Say, Travis, that you wanted to go out and sell commercial real estate. You could complete a certification by NAR, and you could be certified in commercial real estate. Now, does that mean, though, that you're competent? No, it just means you have some experience, but are you really competent in that area? Not really, okay? It's moving you in the right direction. It's kind of like, I tell people this. Imagine your hometown, where you're at, okay? If I go take a class, say Amarillo, for you 8. Say I go take a class, one day, 8-hour class, and I'm going to try to be competent in Amarillo in one day in 8 hours. Is it possible for me to know everything about Amarillo in 8 hours?
No.
What about Houston, Travis? No. What about Mr. Eugene? What about Navasota?
Oh, man, it's more than enough.
More than enough?
We live.
That's fair. But in those
If you
situations,
don't stand around there, somebody tell you.
but in that situation is, do you see where I'm coming with this? Is the fact of the matter is, Mr. Eugene, is while in smaller towns, you probably could learn it in 8 hours. But if you were to go, and Travis was going to teach a course on Houston, Texas, everything you need to know, is it possible that he could teach you every single thing that he knows or that is to be known in Houston in 8 hours? No. It's nearly impossible. Okay? So in these situations is, yes, they're good to take those trainings, but if you want to show your competence, you have to have some background behind you. Okay? Now, once a person gets a sales license and a sponsoring broker, they may start to practice in whatever area authorized by their sponsoring broker. The broker must ensure, though, that the agent is sufficiently competent in that practice area. So I could, if I wanted to, and there are plenty of brokers that do this, I could actually say, Mr. Eugene, you get your real estate license. I could say, congratulations, Mr. Eugene, you got your real estate license. You are going to do exclusively leases, nothing else. You're not going to do any sales, buys, any of that stuff. You're just doing leases. And I could tell Aiden, you can only do BPOs. But Travis, you can do all commercial, okay? There are brokerages that set it out like that. They do set it out where you individually, your broker tells you what you can do. But the key point about that is what happens. When you do something like that, what am I doing to myself as a broker? I'm cutting my own losses. I'm cutting myself at the knees, as they say. Because what happens is what if each one of you are designated to a certain spot and Travis ups and leaves on commercial and I have nobody else in that area? What have I just done to myself? Shot myself in the foot. So, now is it wise, though, that you let your agents do whatever they want? Not always. But most of the time, as long as they can show competency and they are actually involving the agent, the key thing we were talking about today in another meeting was communication. As long as the agents are communicating with their broker, what happens? Everything's a win-win for everybody. Okay, but when a broker, I mean, an agent decides, say Stephen up here, he gets a client and he just does not call me at all, doesn't tell me what's going on, keeps me out of the loop, it's all hush hush. What's the problem with that? Well, he's probably going to get me sued. Because why? He's going to miss deadlines, he's going to miss stuff, and what ends up happening? He's going to get me sued, and he may get his client sued. Okay? That's why I tell people, they're always like, well, you don't need to know every little detail. Yeah, I do. Because each one of those little details add up to what? It could add up to an issue down the road. That one little detail here, and that one little detail here, and that one little detail here could have been prevented, which then could have never caused an issue. Okay? The sponsoring broker is also required to ensure that the sales agents under their sponsorship meet the statutory minimum continuing education required by the License Act. It's my duty to make certain that Aiden completes all of his continuing ed. If Aiden fails to meet all of his continuing ed, then what does that mean? Well, then your license needs to be suspended, needs to expire. And that means any leads that he's working on, Travis, what should I do then? I need to take them away and give them to somebody else. And I've done that before. Had an agent that was slacking on getting their license renewed, kept slacking, then waited for the last 30 days, and then decided, oh, I'm going to try to do it all in 1 week. Well, do you think, you might say, Stephen, you get them all done in 1 week. Does Trek work at Stephen's pace or at their own pace? They work at their own pace. So in that situation, Stephen, you might have got everything done, but what ended up happening? Well, when he sends it off, Mr. Eugene, you're the government, he sends you his application for renewal, where'd you put it at? The top of your list or the bottom?
I'll get to it next year.
Next year. Okay, I had one that it took them almost, when everything was going on pre-COVID, sometimes it takes 3 to 6 months. They don't move quick, guys and gals, they don't move quick. Okay, that's why they're the government. The sponsoring broker is also responsible for making sure that sponsored sales agents have sufficient education to competently perform their authorized practices. Just like today, what did I end up doing with you guys? I took us where? To a training, didn't I? Okay, so I am providing y'all that education to keep you what? Competent, knowledgeable. Okay, so I need to make certain that my agents are competent and knowledgeable of the material so that they can end up doing what? They can get out there and they can do their job. Now, say for example, though, Mr. Eugene, that that I tell everybody that this is mandatory, and Aiden don't come. Now, what should I do?
Mark against it.
It should be a mark against him. But what if Aiden tells me, well, his grandpa died?
Oh, you gotta take that mark away.
Okay, so then you have another training 2 weeks later. Aiden don't show his grandpa died.
We got a problem now.
Well, you can have 2 grandpas.
Again.
But then the third one comes around, and guess what? His grandpa died.
Well, it's a marriage thing.
Is
I
that
do,
what?
I do have a step grandpa, yeah. I do have 3, so
That's 3.
Yeah, he got
I work in that sense.
But now he's got a 4th one.
Okay, there we go.
There we go, right?
Yeah.
So in these situations, as I tell people all the time, is you got to make certain that I actually had students before that always would say that my grandma died. Okay, grandma died. Okay, grandma died. Like, wait a minute, you got 3 grandmas? Then it's another test comes. My grandma died. I'm like, 4 grandmas in 1 semester. That's
rough.
you got some stuff going on here. Every 2 weeks. I mean, man.
That's rough.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes, Miss Leland.
It makes me think of Jumpin' Jack Flash when she kept saying that, the movie.
Yeah.
And the boss said, I'd like to be the beneficiary.
I like that. I like that. That's good. Because it's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, you're going to run into those. But it comes back to, Aiden, let me ask you that question. Say Mr. Eugene is the one that never comes to these trainings that you're offering. You're the broker. What should you eventually do to Mr. Eugene?
If he's not coming to the
Yeah,
trainings,
he's not, every time his grandma's died, his grandma's died, his grandma's died, his grandma's died.
probably release him.
Are you gonna let him go, or are you gonna talk to him first?
I'm gonna talk to him first, yeah.
Okay, and then if he says, well, okay, I don't have no grandmas, they're gone now. And then the next one comes up, now it's grandpa. Now what are you gonna do?
We got Wood the first time.
I mean,
Release him for his own good.
I can look now,
Yeah.
I'm buying extra grandma and grandpa, so
Is that what it is? So you hired Travis to go out and take out all these people that you're bringing on? Is that
Of
what-
course,
Okay.
yeah, so it's legit.
so it's
Legit.
legit.
Man, Travis, I didn't know you were in the hitman business. I didn't. Is it,
Oh,
that's
I feel being involved in this.
But no, the key thing is all seriousness and all joking aside, you got to make certain that people are involved. And I can tell you, there are some agents, they're on top of their stuff. And then there are some agents that they don't make it. That's why real estate, what happens with real estate altogether? Well, in real estate, what's the turnover rate in real estate? High or low? You've been with me long enough. How's turnover in real estate?
Quick.
No, it's high.
Quick.
Real estate's very
Oh,
high.
it's quick.
Because what happens is, Mr. Eugene comes into the field, he works in real estate for 3 to 6 months, hasn't made a dime, and what does he do?
He's out of
I'm down.
here.
I'm out.
Oh, that's fucking.
You see what I'm saying? So in those situations is, sometimes it's in the broker's best interest to just do what?
And that's,
Cut ties. Let it go. Okay. Now, when we talk about specialization, the key one that 90% of you will be in is residential. Residential. And what does that mean? Well, it means to deal in property that's used for housing, including small city lots, acreage in single family and multifamily units, in urban, suburban, and rural areas. Okay. Within the residential market, agents may specialize in or deal with, on a regular basis, foreclosure, short sales, that's Stefan's favorite, by the way, or real estate owned properties, which are called REOs. An agent that specializes in these kinds of lender involved transactions must have a good grasp of financing, investment, tax, and valuation principles. Okay, so some agents think that once I get my real estate license, all I do is open doors and let people walk around, look at the houses, and then if they will put an offer in, I just fill out some paper and send it over. That's it. Okay?
Easy.
Yeah, that easy, right? Is that how it goes, Stephen? True or false?
False.
False. What do you got to do? You don't have to ever deal with difficult people, do you?
Oh, my God.
You're dealing with people, you're gonna deal with some difficult people.
So you telling me that you sometimes got to handle Mr. Eugene type people?
Yep, and sometimes worse.
Sometimes there's worse.
Ooh.
There's worse.
There's worse, man.
I work hard at being worse off.
So in those situations is you got to make certain that what? As a real estate agent, I actually had an agent tell me this before. Well, I didn't know I was supposed to. A client told me that told me X, Y, and Z and asked my opinion, and I told him, well, I can't give you no opinion. That's what we do. That's our job, especially if they're what? If they're a client. So it's kind of like this, Travis. If I go to you and I say, we go see Aiden's property, Travis. I'm just a client.
Question.
Oh no, I'm a client. This one.
Okay.
I'm a client. I come up to you and I would go look at Aiden's property and he's got it listed for $300,000. And I say, you know what? I want to put an offer in, Travis. I like this house. Travis says, all right. Well, how much you want to put in? I say 200,000.
That's gonna be rough.
What are you gonna tell me, Travis?
That's probably not gonna work. It's
Well,
up to you.
200,000, Travis. That's a good deal.
It's up to you, but I don't think that's gonna go through.
Well, why not?
I feel like if they're asking 300, they probably won't take 200.
Okay, 210,000. That's that. I know I'll get it for 210.
We might want to move your price range up a bit, or look at lower houses.
You see what he's doing there? He's telling me what? He's telling me my information. Okay. You have a job to tell your clients if they put in a bad offer. Like I told somebody today, I said, don't tell them that their offer's terrible. Just do what Travis just did there. You might want to kind of bump that up some more. Well, why? Well, because if they got a list at 300, I just did a comp, a CMA on this, and it's 299. I don't think they're going to take a $200,000 offer. Okay. Now, does that mean though, if I'm adamant and I say I want to put in a $200,000 offer, all right, then you put it in. But did he do his job by telling me that it most likely is not going to get accepted. Yeah. So who's it blaming that if it doesn't go through?
The one who wants to.
It's me, not Travis. It's me. Now, what might I try to do if I lose the deal? Well, Travis, you didn't tell me that I shouldn't put in such a low offer.
Don't hear none of this.
And then in that situation, he's going to say, I texted you or I emailed you and told you I don't recommend that. Okay? But that's one of the key things is you have to have a grasp of financing, investment, tax, and valuation principles. Now, does this mean though, Aiden, since we're talking about financing and investments, tax, and this means that you're a CFP, right? Certified Financial Planner?
No.
And you can just start giving financial advice and tax advice. And while we're at it, let's throw in some legal advice. What do you think about that too?
Definitely not legal advice.
Well, why can't we throw some of this stuff in there?
Well, I mean, because you don't have to be professional.
Have you gone to get your road agent to give tax advice? Have you gone through and done your CFP to give financing and investment?
No.
Have you went and got your appraisal's license to give valuation?
No.
So, can you give any of those things? You can give a broad statement, but can you break it down and say, Stephen, I guarantee if you buy this house because of the valuation that I calculated and the principal financing rates give you approximately this tax benefit, and it's a good investment property. Can you do that?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't have those certifications.
You don't have the knowledge, the training, or the know-how. But can you say, from what I'm seeing in the market, it looks like these houses are going up. Well, I can't tell you 100% that if they will. Looks like it's a good market. Are you covered there?
Yep.
See how your wording comes into it? It's all about your wording. Okay. Now, leasing and property management. Now, Stephen loves property management just as much as he loves basically short sales. Loves it. Okay. Why are you shaking your head over there, Stephen?
Because they both are not.
They both are not that good. Okay. Leasing isn't that bad.
One is much worse, yeah.
Okay, leasing's not that bad. Going out doing leasing, it's okay. Now, unfortunately, clients don't understand how leasing works, but it's okay. Okay, it's we're a real estate agent who operates a property for its owner. So it's Mr. Nobles. You say, you know what, Justin, I want you to go over there and manage my home. Okay, there's a little difference. People get this confused. Just because I manage your home, Mr. Eugene, does not mean you've always given me granting of right to lease it. Okay? Now, sometimes you may have Aiden lease the property, but want me to manage the property. Now, would I want to do that? No. That's a bad deal, actually. But what happens is that there can be exclusive people that all they deal with is leasing. They'll go in, Travis comes up to you, Mr. Eugene, says, I'll lease your property. He puts a release sign up. He finds a tenant. Then that tenant ends up, he refers it to me, the property manager. I go through, run the background check, do the lease, do all the work, and then Travis gets a paycheck. Okay? But in that situation is I'll tell you why I don't like property management. And if you're listening to property management, the reason I don't like it is it more at the smaller scale, not the larger scale. You're working with a very large scale corporation. You got a lot of money in your pocket and you're paying salary and all that. Property management can be great. If you have a person that's fixing properties, you got somebody full-time doing all this stuff, works out perfect. But if you are managing 1, 2, 3, even up to 10 properties, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Because the reason with that is in this situation, liability is super high with property management. Probably the number one reason that most real estate agents get sued, property management. Okay? That's why I hate it, because it's the highest liability. But guess what else is the problem? You ready? Not only is liability extremely high in property management, here's the second thing. The pay is horrible. Horrible. So, Mr. Eugene, for every $1,000 on the high end, for every $1,000 of rent per month, I'm only making $100 a month. So, if you own Aiden's property, Mr. Eugene, okay, and I'm managing that property for you. So you're giving it to me. Aiden is paying $1,000 a month. I make $100. Now, you ready? Yeah, you make 9, I make 100. But my broker, Mr. Grossman over here, he wants his cut of that $100 too.
So you get $10.
So he gets $30, and what do I get? 70. Now, guess where the problem comes in? Mr. Aiden lives in an older home. What happens in an older home, Mr. Aiden? Things what? They break, don't they? So how many times you call me a month? 3, 4, 5 times a month, right? And I'm having to run back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for $70. With gas prices right now, Mr. Travis, how long is it going to take for me to lose money on this deal? Probably 2 trips, maybe 3. Okay? So in that situation is property management, unless you're working for a very large corporation or a mid-size, you're not going to make money. Doing it individually ain't worth it. People ask me all the time, you want to manage my property? No. Because it's not worth the cash. I actually did manage one lady's property for an entire 4 years. I think I brought in maybe $6,000 in 4 years. $6,000 in 4 years. Then the last freaking tenants in the place destroyed it. And she ended up, she wanted it fixed. Or she was going to go talk to an attorney. And I'm like, I can't help that, say, Aiden destroyed it. So I had to go in and put money into the property so that she wouldn't go hire legal counsel. And we had to go through a whole lawsuit. So that entire $6,000 went where? Back into her property. How much money did I make over 4 years? Zippo. Okay. I don't deal with property management. I hate it. Now, if, like I said, Mr. Eugene, you get a call and somebody says, you know, we'd like to pay you $100,000 a year to manage our property, maybe worth it. Okay. But if you're wanting to do this independently, it ain't worth it. Yes.
If I owned Aiden's property,
Uh-huh.
how much would I make if I like shop around to find a management company to manage the company, or manage the property that I owned, basically?
How much would, say that again? How much would you?
Like if I own Aiden's property,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't want to manage it.
Yep.
How much would I usually get typically if I hired a management company to take care of his property?
So like I do a flat 10%. So you would, if it was $1,000 a month, you get 900, I get 100. But then I got to split that with other people. Now I will say, this is where it comes into bigger companies. If you have a bigger property management and you have hundreds of properties, some companies go down to, I've heard, 6 to 7%.
Yeah.
But that's because they have a ton of properties that they're managing.
100 properties or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
But in the beginning, you're going to probably want to charge 10% if you have no properties or a very few amount of properties. I heard one place in Houston charged as low as 5% before. So you got to be very careful, but the money-wise just ain't worth it. Liabilities through the roof. It's just not worth it.
It's worth it as the owner, but it's not worth it as the manager.
And the management company,
Yeah.
you have to have so many. The time it takes, it's a pain. I'm just gonna put it that way. Let's see here. Most large cities have local associations of building and property owners and managers that are affiliates of regional and national associations. Within Texas, we have the Texas Apartment Association, which is the TAA, and it has more than 10,500 members who manage more than 1.75 million rental house units statewide. Okay. Another option is you could go into apartment locating. Apartment locating, of course, is a residential rental locator, matches landlords with tenants. Again, they work as independent contractors for several apartment complexes, and the locator finds the apartment units for prospective tenants and then qualifies those prospective tenants and negotiates leases with that particular apartment complex. Very similar to this in regards to the leasing aspect. The only difference is these people deal exclusively with just apartments. Okay, and I know that there's one guy that he made pretty good money dealing with apartment locating. That he's in Austin, and he brings in close to $100,000 a year, just focusing primarily only on apartment locating. But the difference is there's a lot more apartments there than if you try to do something here. Okay, and a lot of them here they won't even let you do it. A rental locator is generally paid by the owner of the apartments and must be licensed as a Texas Real Estate Commission or by the Texas Real Estate Commission. Apartment locators have specific advertising rules of which they are required to comply. The other option, and this is very similar to the residential, is the commercial brokerage. Okay, and again, they specialize within the business properties. And that includes office buildings, shopping centers, stores, theaters, hotels, industrial parks, and parking facilities. Okay, so there are many different types that you can deal with at the commercial level. Again, commercial brokers should have the knowledge of real estate investment and financing principles, because understanding the income producing potential of commercial properties is key to representing the clients in that commercial market. Agents specializing in commercial real estate should have a proper understanding of local zoning laws and commercial property valuation principles. I'll tell you a little secret. When you go and start looking on the MLS, okay, you're going to see if Mr. Eugene wants to sell his house, Mr. Eugene wants to sell it for $200,000, how much are you going to sell it for? $200,000, right? So he's going to go over and he's going to sell $200,000 for that property. So when you look on the MLS, Travis, you're going to search what? $200,000 properties, right? But in regards to commercial, how do we list properties?
Per square foot.
Per square foot. So for example, if Aiden, you're wanting to buy a property or you want to lease an office building, you may get on the MLS and see this office here at $1.25. Now, does that mean that it's leased for $1.25? No, what's it mean? For every square foot, they're charging $1.25. Okay. So if let's say it was $1, not even $1.25, say it's $1, and it's 2,000 square feet. Okay. Well, in that particular situation, that's $2,000. Now that's how much you're going to pay per month for that property. Okay. Now, what if they say $12? Well, $12 at 1,000 square feet would be $12,000. Now, with it being that large, that means you divide it by 12, and that gives you your rent. Okay. But you have to watch how these are calculated, because each person calculates things differently, if that makes sense. Within the commercial market, agents in urban areas can further specialize in selling or leasing medical offices, retail or industrial space, to name just a few areas within the commercial market niche. This one is very big if you're into agriculture. And this is the farm and ranch. You can specialize in farm and ranch. Farm and ranch or land sales, basically, you specialize in farm, timberland, pasture land, ranches, or orchards. Each agent who deals in farm and ranch properties should have a good understanding of agricultural production principles, how crops and timber may affect the value of those properties. See, a lot of times is a residential agent will try to go out and sell farm and ranch, okay? And a person will say, well, you know, Travis, how much is the timber out here? How much is that going for these days? Travis is like, I have no freaking idea. Well, guess what? He needs to be able to find somebody that can help him get that information, okay? Don't ever guesstimate, all right? You also need to be aware of the soil in these areas, because sometimes a client might want to do what? They may want to grow crops. Mr. Eugene, if Aiden wants to grow crops on this land he's buying and it's clay, is that a wise idea?
Nope.
Why?
They don't grow well.
It's not going to do what he wants to do. Okay. So you should have knowledge of such things as hunting and game leases, oil and gas and other mineral rights, and water rights on working farms or ranches. You may even have Stephen, who may say, you know what, I want to deal with resorts. Okay? You may say, I want to deal with resorts. Well, you need to be aware of the sale and residential or resale of timeshare interest, as well as the same laws that do apply in regards to residential and commercial sales. You also need to be very familiar with the American Resort Development Association and also the direct employment in resort industry. Okay, actually, I was looking on the MLS today, and there's some resorts that are timeshares that are listed on the MLS. Okay, don't be surprised by that. Some other areas as well that you can focus on could be auctioneers. Okay, both live and online real estate auctions are an integral part of the real estate industry in Texas and across the nation. Auction companies may also work with lenders to conduct REO property auctions and bulk property sales, as well as with sellers on lender-approved short sale auctions. Okay, so auctioneers is a very big one as well. Under Chapter 1802 of the Texas Occupancy Code, a person that conducts any type of auction in Texas must have an auctioneer's license. Under the License Act, which is TRELA, a person that conducts a real estate auction must also be a licensed broker or sales agent. Okay. Chapter 1802 defines an auction as the sale of property by competitive bid using any method, format, or venue. The Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, which is TDLR, clarified by the rule that multiple offers to purchase real estate, though, are not considered competitive bids if all the material items of the transaction other than the price are different. Okay, so just because you get multiple bids on a property does not mean that it's actually an auction. Okay, it just means that you've ended up that you got multiple bids. While an auctioneer license may be necessary to call an auction, a real estate agent specializing in the auctioning of real property will need to have knowledge of the auction process, financing and investment principles, as well as the property valuation methods. Okay. The other one that is of importance is appraisal. And this is the process of developing an opinion of value for a parcel of real estate. Now, this one also requires a separate license other than a salesperson. Okay. An appraiser must have sound judgment, experience, and a detailed knowledge of the methods of valuation. Appraisers are licensed by the TALCB, and they are independent of TREC, but they still work together hand in hand. Another option is financing, and it's the business of providing the funds necessary to complete the real estate transactions. Okay. Real quick on this, we've talked about this before, is you could get your mortgage broker's license. That's what this falls under. Okay. Real estate inspector. A real estate inspector is generally hired by a prospective purchaser to inspect real property and to give an opinion as to the condition of the structural systems, electrical systems, mechanical systems, plumbing systems, and of the appliances. Again, a separate license must be had there. Property inspectors must be licensed by the Texas Real Estate Commission, and inspectors must use the standard forms when going through and using basically how they're writing up their matters, okay, in regards to the standards of practice. Another one is property development. Property development, of course, is comprised of several different professions. They include the work of land developers, subdividers who purchase the raw land. They divide it into lots, build roads, and install utilities. And it involves builders and architects who plan and construct the houses or other buildings, and the entire developer or the builder who sells that improved real estate will either be directly or indirectly through brokerage firms. This is my favorite, this slide right here. How often does this happen, Mr. Grossman? How often do you have to counsel your clients?
Way more than you would want it to.
A lot, okay? So when it comes down to this, when dealing with counseling, a real estate counselor helps clients choose among the various alternatives that are involved in purchasing, using, or investing in real property. A lot more options, okay? But in these situations, it is helping your client have a better understanding and making the right choices. Okay, I actually, myself and Mr. Grossman have had to advise a client that they need to take a break. They've been doing too much. They need to take a break for 30 days, recoup, reanalyze, and go from there. Another one, of course, as we've talked about, is education. It's what I'm doing right now with y'all. The real estate practitioner and the consumer can learn more about the complexities of the real estate business through education. Colleges, schools, real estate organizations, and continuing education programs conduct courses and seminars in all areas of the business. Experienced real estate professionals oftentimes teach these courses. We've talked about title and abstract work before. It basically ensures that the title of that particular property that they're purchasing is going to actually be good. So the broad knowledge of real estate title, conveyance, as well as lien law, as well as other good grasp of just basic real estate math are going to be very beneficial. The title insurance escrow officers must be licensed, however, by the Department of Insurance. The other one is urban planning. Urban planning is where you work with local governments to make recommendations for new streets, sewer, and water lines, as well as schools, parks, and libraries. Petroleum landman conducts business activities that are related to oil and gas and mineral exploration. A landman working for an oil and gas company negotiates and administers the purchase of or lease of contracts with the land or mineral interest owners and ensures compliance with governmental regulations. Again, an independent landman, often working on a contract basis, researches the courthouse records to determine the ownership and locates the mineral landowners and negotiates oil and gas purchase leases, purchase contracts, leases, or other agreements with them, and obtains any necessary curative documents. And of course, the last one is you could be a lawyer, unlicensed assistant, finance specialist, building manager or supervisor, environmental professional, and or regulator. Okay. All right. That was a lot of information this evening. We're going to go ahead and call it today. We're going to pick back up at chapter 18 tomorrow, follow up with real estate investment, and keep proceeding from there. So we're going to call it a night tonight, and I will talk with all of you